The PFI had called a bandh to protest against the midnight raids and arrest of its key leaders by central agencies. But PFI members used their hartal call as an excuse to go on a vandalism spree. State-owned buses and auto rickshaws were pelted with stones.
Inside this bus, we can see that there are fragments of glass that is there all over. There are big stones that are inside this. So this is a condition in most of the vehicles where buses have been damaged like this.
Tires were burnt and even private vehicles were not spared.
That the hartal supporters, they took away the key and blocked the road. Now the police have gave a direct connection, and now they have started this truck. So the technique was to just to block the truck and take away the key.
PFI workers were even caught on camera hurling petrol bombs at the offices of the RSS and the BJP. In some places,
Thanks a lot for staying with us. Let's get you a quick check of the day's biggest updates. A big win for Uddhav Thackeray faction. The Bombay High Court has rejected the plea by Maharashtra CM Eknath Shinde to hold Dussehra rally at Mumbai's Shivaji Park. Instead, the court approved the application of Uddhav Thackeray faction to mark the festival at the said area. On Thursday, the BMC had denied permission to both Uddhav and Shinde faction for holding this rally at Shivaji Park. Karnataka government's push for Kannadigas has begun to take shape in the form of a new bill. The state government tabled the Kannada Language Comprehensive Development Bill 2022 in the Legislative Assembly. The aim is to provide reservation to Kannadigas in higher education, link incentives to industries, amongst other measures aimed at giving primacy to the language. Andhra Pradesh Assembly has cleared a bill to rename NTR Health University as YSR Health University. Now, N.T. Rama Rao's grandson and actor Junior NTR reacted to the university renaming. He said merely changing the name of an institution doesn't lower the stature of an individual, and that renaming the university will not erase NTR's fame and contribution. Latest in the Congress president poll saga, all eyes are on the tussle between Ashok Gehlot and Sachin Pilot too. Sachin Pilot is in Delhi today. Sources said he'll be meeting the top brass of the party to discuss him possibly replacing Gehlot as Chief Minister of Rajasthan. Remember, Gehlot, who had declared his intention to continue as the Chief Minister even if he was to be elected as Congress Chief, backed down after Rahul Gandhi publicly stated that the new party chief would have to follow the one man, one post principle. Life was thrown out of gear as heavy rains lashed Delhi NCR. Traffic snarls were witnessed on the water-covered Delhi-Gurugram Expressway. Indian Met Department cautioned people to be alert after issuing a yellow warning for Friday with a forecast of moderate rains.
This is the condition of one of the most prime localities in Gurugram, and this is after 2 days of heavy downpour. You can see this entire lane has been waterlogged and people are actually witnessing heavy traffic on these very lanes. This is the Sector 47 road in Gurugram, and what the people are saying is that this water logging is only increasing with every passing moment.
Catering to the ambition of becoming the backbone of India's Air Force, indigenous fighter aircraft Tejas Mark 1 has been deputed at the Sulur Air Base. With its high agility, this pilot-friendly aircraft can fly up to 50,000 feet. Some news from across the world. 4 areas of Ukraine controlled by Russia and pro-Moscow forces are all set to hold referendums over joining Russia amidst the ongoing military conflict. The provinces Luhansk, Donetsk, Kherson and Zaporizhia are currently under Russia control, and in the past few months, Moscow has set up local governments to handle daily administration. 22-year-old Mahsa Amini's death in Iran continues to spark outrage. Thousands marched through Tehran's streets to demonstrate against the government and the morality police. Remember, Amini died on September 16, 3 days after she was hospitalized following her arrest by this morality police, who are responsible for enforcing Iran's strict dress code for women. Iranian authorities have now opened an investigation into her death. Dramatic visuals from Bermuda where Hurricane Fiona caused heavy rainfall this morning. The center of the storm passed Bermuda with winds nearing 125 miles per hour. The hurricane is now moving towards northwestern Canada, where heavy rainfall and powerful hurricane-force winds are expected to hit Atlantic Canada and eastern Quebec starting early Saturday. An incident of mass stranding occurred in Australia, where over 200 whales were stranded on an exposed beach along the coast of Tasmania. Only around 30 whales were rescued. This is the second mass stranding of whales to have taken place in Tasmania this week after more than a dozen sperm whales, mostly young males and believed to be part of the same bachelor pod, were found dead on another beach. And finally, we leave you with the big four of men's tennis on the court together, gearing up for the final match of Roger Federer's professional career at the Lever Cup. Remember, FedEx is retiring this weekend, but not before he plays doubles with his longtime rival and friend Rafa Nadal.
Welcome to the Right Stand. I'm Anand Narsimhan. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to thank you. Thank you for your patronage. Thank you for your viewership. Continuously here, you have supported us, and that is why, for trusting CNN News 18, we must thank you. 22 weeks and counting as we soar higher in the realm of ratings propelled by your continued patronage. This is dominance, and this could not have been possible had it not been for you. Now, over the last 18 months, CNN News 18 has been at the forefront of exposing the PFI and its allied organizations. Over the last 36 hours, Bharat has also witnessed the most comprehensive crackdown ever on an organization. And here on your channel, we have endeavored to cover all the angles that nail the PFI. 9 different exclusives that delineate the workings and machinations of the seemingly benign outfit, which has a very, very sinister motive to change the DNA of Bharat. This is the most comprehensive deep dive that you are tuning into. So stay with us right through over the course of the next 60 minutes. First up, here is a quick recap of these exclusives. 9 different exclusives. Let's go through them one by one. First up, exposing PFI, a comprehensive deep dive. Number 1, oiled terror machinery, organized leadership and hierarchy. It's got 15 committees, 4 departments, expansion, guidance, spying, physical training. It's got 5 overseas wings in Gulf countries, the Middle East nations. This is the first exclusive. Exclusive number 2, PFI's front organizations. 15 organizations are its front that also include the likes of Satya Sarani, Campus Front of India, SDPI, National Women Front of India, Rehab India. It's got multiple trusts and foundations who fund its operations. Exclusive number 3, decoding PFI's web strategy. The focus is inciting sentiments, furthering this entire narrative of Muslim suppression, jihad, and jihad defined as the last resort. So they're pushing for jihad, saying, but you got no other option. That's how they're pushing it. New accounts created, materials are posted, and then the account is deleted. So this social media strategy, this narrative is also, we've exposed. Exclusive number 4, PFI's alleged terror links. Close links to the ISIS, Daesh Khorasan and also in Syria. Also the Ansarul Bangla. Coordination on strategy and spreading many PFI leaders who are now part of the ISIS ranks. There is also the entire legacy of Simi and Indian Mujahideen, the links, and of course its agenda, took over its agenda after the ban in 2001. Exclusive number 5, let's move on. The connect with the Muslim Brotherhood, and that's why Gulf nations need to be very clear. They need to be careful about how they react to this crackdown, because the Banda and brother, this connection is there. Shared ideology, politicizing Islam. Second, unity of the Ummah. PFI and the Jamaat-e-Islami are key conduits for the Muslim Brotherhood's India influence. There is a direct PFI Muslim Brotherhood link in the Middle East too. And also the terminologies, the way they address functioning, everything similar. Exclusive number 6. The global funding plot, India Fraternity Forum, Muslim Relief Network, Islamic Development Banks, all are pushing money, and also via Hawala surreptitiously individuals too. Plus, they're running a manpower supply companies which are supplying manpower from India, from states like Kerala, Bihar, UP, Karnataka, etc. into the Gulf regions, countries like the UAE and Saudi Arabia. Funds are generated to an average of 3 million dirhams per month. That's 6.61 crores per month. How? 100 rupees per month per person. Nearly 30,000 workers. You do the math. Exclusive number 7. 4-pronged PFI strategy. We'll talk about it later in detail through the course of this broadcast. Step 1. Unite Muslims. Remind them of the atrocities. Train them to attack. Tell them they are victims, they have no other option but to fight back. Second one, take the grievances to a wider global audience and say, we need support in India, we need more money, give us the cause. Then slowly build up the narrative that they are the only ones who can champion the cause for Muslims in India. Create a divide in society and also break the RSS's endearment or workings within the OBCs. Mobilize weapons, work on marches. And step 4, loyalty. Bring the loyal cadre and also set them among politicians, among the police, in the judiciary. Embed yourself. Get inside all the system. Get into the system. Use the system to subvert the system. Establish their own constitution eventually, and that is a pan-Islamic intent there. Exclusive number 8. Sangh on the target of the PFI. The spy wing tracks the movement of RSS leaders. Information on RSS leaders shared with foreign cadre, creating Hindu-Muslim divide a key agenda. Also, they want to identify the RSS, their workers, their movements, and then target them. Number 9, exclusive, using high-tech gadgets to subvert the system, even in the sea, in the high seas, terror activities, or even laundering of money, exchange of cash in the deep waters. Perhaps linkages with Sri Lanka, Maldives, big question. Because Barkatullah, one of their PFI leaders, involved in sea terror. This is being probed. Why? Because high-frequency wireless devices were used, built-in GPS distress call button so that it can be used in the dead of the night. Largely, this equipment is used for sea navigation. It's been now seized from one of the PFI workers called Barkatullah. Comprehensive, ladies and gentlemen. 9 different exclusives in the last 24 hours we have brought you here on CNN News 18. And tonight, we take it further as we do a comprehensive deep dive. Comprehensive deep dive into the PFI's anti-India activities. They want to alter the DNA of Bharat itself. That's why this crackdown was important. That is what the information points to. The information that we have sourced from top government agencies, intelligence agencies and sources. S.N. Srivastava, former Commissioner of Police, Delhi, with us. Dr. Syed Rizwan Ahmad, advocate, with us. Abhijit Iyer Mitra, Senior Fellow, Institute of Peace and Conflict Studies, and also a regular contributor on the News 18 platforms of First Post and News18.com. Abhishek Banerjee, columnist, who also writes regularly with us, and he has been tracking the PFI for a while. Rahul Ishwar, author and activist, who has echoed this aspect that this organization is up to no good, be it in Kerala or elsewhere across the country. But before I come to you, ladies and gentlemen, and before I go to our August panel, let's look at exclusive number 10. This is PFI's global footprint, which is a big, big wake-up call, ladies and gentlemen. In UAE, there are regular visits by the PFI leaders from Kerala to Abu Dhabi and Dubai. Who are they meeting? Why are they going there regularly? Big question. PFI leaders visits the Muslim Brotherhood strongholds regularly. Money laundering and hawala operation hubs. Real estate and car rental businesses are also controlled by the PFI in the UAE. In Saudi Arabia, operations fronted by Indian Social Forum, ISF, and Indian Fraternity Forum, IFF, both contributing to the PFI fundings and also both with linkages to the MB, that's the Muslim Brotherhood. Then lure Indian nationals during Hajj and collect money from them also. Money for terror ops sent to India via Hawala and also gold smuggling. Does that ring a bell? Especially those watching in Kerala. Funds are pumped in via e-wallet in the name of legal aid. Then Oman, how are they working? Works under the Social Forum umbrella and with the ISF and with the IFF. Then Kerala wing of the PFI, NDF, propagates radical ideology via Tarbiyah. Again, big Hawala funding, 44 lakh has been sent to India. This amount could be much larger, but this is what has been revealed to us here at CNN News 18 by top government sources. Money sent directly to Rehab India Foundation. Radicalization via multiple fronts like SF, ISF, WFS and the WSKA. All multiple fronts of the PFI. Turkey, the base established with the help of Indian students in Turkey. Fundraising happening via students. In Kuwait, Qatar, PFI front, a cultural forum popular among the Malayali population. In Kuwait, again, social forum which is active. Backing for ISIS cause in Syria. Funds collected for PFI, SDPI transferred to India via Hawala. So this is Qatar. Now let's get to Kuwait. Kuwait, India social forum which is active. Again, rich Kuwaitis radicalized using videos, funds collected, and of course a false narrative that has been set. Now in all these countries, plus other countries where they are active, Bahrain, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Maldives, Bangladesh, and Mauritius. Everywhere there is a narrative setting that is happening, and look at the amount of money. $500 million has been sent for the PFI after Hathras gang rape. Maldives, false blasphemy charges leveled against Hindus and against Christians. So this is a collective, and they tweak the narrative. Larger narrative is Pan-Islam, Ummah. And whether it is Hindus or whether it is Christians, they will go after them, whatever. SN Srivastava ji, let me start with you. Did you know that this is how comprehensive or this is how well entrenched this organization is? Because they came up to be very benign. We are a small organization, young group of people who just want to do something for the betterment of the society in India.
Well, you have given a very good account of the support that they are getting from the various countries in the Middle East and the fund collection and how it is pumped into the various front organizations, and so that there is no footprint of the fund transfer. You have very rightly said about the various activities of the PFI. They pose themselves as a social organization, organization which helps the Muslim and also other minorities and Dalits. And in the name of this, how they radicalize, how they train the various people into in the new technology, and also bomb making and arms training, etc. And in the recent times, you have noticed, you have mentioned about the Hathras, which where a girl had to undergo a very torrid time. She finally died. And even in Delhi, the northeast Delhi riots where the PFI had a footprint, and in the Assam, there also they were involved. And for a case of a custodial death, they could manage to burn the police station. So we see that they are engaging into activities which are anti-national, and it's a threat to the unity and integrity of the country. And it is very important that the NIA, which has done searches at various places, more than 100, get into the bottom of this and come out with the truth, and some strong action is taken, including the banning of this organization.
But does it concern you that they were able to entrench themselves? Srivastavaji, did you find them involved even in your tenure as Commissioner of Police in Delhi? Because you were at the helm when a lot of the social unrest and strife happened.
Definitely in the Northeast Delhi riots, let me tell you that the various places where the riot had taken place, the PFI members, during the investigation, we found that they were present at the various sites where the riots were committed. And they remained there till the last moment, just before the riots started. And once the riots started, they left the place. During the investigation, we were able to arrest 3 PFI members. The funding were being investigated, and I'm sure the investigation would have gone further and some tangible results would have come. So their involvement in the Northeast riots is without doubt.
Srivastavaji, I'll swing back to you in just a bit. Let me just get some thoughts based on all the inputs that we have put out. This is comprehensive information, and I have to commend our investigations editor Manoj Gupta for getting us all these details. Of course, Anvit Srivastava, Ashish Mehrishi, Arunima, Ananya, they've all contributed to try and keep our viewers ahead with lots of information, facts. We just open up the entire scope of this organization's operations. It's not just one small lettering or 3-letter word that's Popular Front of India or PFI. There's just a huge hydra that they have tried to keep hidden. Rizwan Saab, let me ask you this, Dr. Syed Rizwan. Why is it that there is a huge resistance to this organization's machinations and intent, even within the Muslim community? There have been many people who first step forward that this organization is up to no good, don't allow them to spread.
No. It's not like that. See, globally, I don't know Commissioner Shah will agree with me or not. Globally, the modus operandi of such organization is same, be it Muslim Brotherhood, be it Taliban also, or be it PFI. They start up as an organization which is to dispense justice and equality in light of Holy Quran and Shariat. And once they entrench themselves, they show their true color. Number one. Number two, the most important submission which I want to make. You mark my words today as a humble person who studies Muslim psyche and these organizations. Some years down the line, such an organization will be a bigger menace for the country than the Kashmir terror. And I can reason it out with you. Kashmir terror was erratic. It was not in a very organized way. It was localized in the Kashmir Valley. Whereas if you see PFI, the time you will understand that it is, we have to take some action. They will be entrenched in whole of India. They will be having branches in whole of India in guise of social work. They will be a more lubricated organization, and later on it won't be possible for the government to weed them out because they will be so well spread in the society. They will homogenize themselves in the society, and it won't be able for us or the government to weed them out. So I use this platform to request the government, then more than the Punjab terror or the Kashmir terror which was localized, the government should take much more stringent, concentrated and consistent steps whereas PFI is concerned, before it gets too late and before we are unable to weed them out and unable to understand who is a member of PFI and who is not a member of PFI.
Now, was that a challenge, Srivastavaji? Before I go to Abhijit Iyer, Mita, Abhishek Banerjee and Rahul Ishwarji, I want to ask you, was that a challenge in your investigations to pin somebody with the PFI? Did they openly come out and say they're members of PFI, SDPI, etc.? Or was this very clandestine?
Yes, in fact, I wanted to talk on this subject.
Ji.
During the investigation of the Northeast riot case, when we searched the premises of PFI, the headquarters, the Delhi unit, the president and the various office bearers who were shown as the office bearers, they were basically a very lowly official, and they had not much. They were not much aware. So this is the way they conceal themselves. Number one, who are working for PFI, the main persons that they conceal.
Ji.
You see, the way they operate is like wherever there is an issue where they can gain foothold, like any riotous situation or anything, they come there, they sympathize with the community, and thereby gain some confidence, and they get close to them, and thereafter they strategize, they organize riots, and also do the funding in such a way. Their funding is never done through the banking channels. It is done through small amounts in cash are given to the person on the ground to carry out the various activities. So this way, by not using the banking channels, they don't leave any footprint. They conceal the main office bearers, the main kartas, they conceal them. And also at the same time, their usage of any electronic device like mobile phone, etc., that is minimal or almost non-existent.
Right.
And because of these, gathering good solid investigation is always a challenge.
So then, did you ever feel कि मुझे मालूम है तुम ही कर रहे हो, but how do I prove it? Did you ever get into a situation like that?
Yeah. No, we did get evidence, but to get more solid evidence is always a challenge, as I mentioned to you, because what is important is the funding, the main persons who are. So you would know something, but to get the larger the people who are working from the background, it's always a challenge.
So how do I perfect the art of committing something but never being made culpable for it? Abhijit Iyer Mitra. So how much of thought process would have gone in? How many mistakes they would have had to make to learn from it? Does this also show in the way they evolved as the names that they called? So from Student Islamic Movement of India, they become Indian Mujahideen, and then they become Popular Front of India. Everything is then India, India, India. There is no Mujahideen, there is no Islam involved at all.
They also had several other very secular sounding names. See, the thing is, the way international terrorism works is that it networks. It doesn't learn from its local mistakes, it learns from global mistakes. And you know, the template for this is how Pakistani organizations work. Because see, they have every different mazhab within Islam has a different terrorist organization in Pakistan. And you know, they themselves are split into the the civil wing and the military wing, so to say. So you know, like the IRA had the Sinn Féin, which was the political party, but the Irish Republican Army, which was the military part.
Right.
They've split that. They've also learned over the years how to overcome UN sanctions, because remember, every time the UN sanctions one body, the same people go and reinvent themselves as another body. Right. The second lesson that they learned was how to, you know, there's this saying unity in diversity. In this case, diversity was a diversity of organizations where everything is hidden, compartmentalized, siloized. And only the mastermind can sort of, almost like a jigsaw puzzle, bring it all together.
Right.
Working towards the same purpose, but with a diversity of names, but no diversity of ideology in that sense, right? The same end goal. So what they did was they literally hid it in the haystack, hid the needle in the haystack, so to say. A haystack of cacophonous, acronyms and word soup and what have you, all essentially working to the same purpose. And so what happens is, if the way siloized compartments protect each other is, if one gets compromised, the other carries on the work.
Right.
It either takes on the work or its contacts remain the same, and then it pretends to be peaceful. It can say, oh, we had nothing to do with these guys. These guys are different. Don't conflate us with them. So they have adopted, and this is almost a book that has taken about 30-40 years to perfect.
Yes.
But it has been perfect. So, we really have to appreciate how much effort went into this, but also how much effort our investigative agencies put in to be able to decipher all of this. Because, it's
Correct.
quite superhuman to be able to go through every single nook and cranny and facet. And I bet you we haven't gotten, we've gotten about 60-70% of it, but let's not forget there are still overground workers, so-called civil society organizations and things like that still out there, which would be branches of this, which would have been shielded even from basic transactions or communications with all these other organizations in order to protect them. This is how these functions work. So, when we did a deep dive into Al-Qaeda was the originator of this. They used to radicalize people on the dark web when, internet was still dial-up internet. And it used to require a great deal of expertise. ISIS came up with the self-radicalization modules. But what ISIS also came up because of those self-radicalization modules is you can create a suicide bomber literally in a vacuum. It could be somebody as simple as Abhijit Iyer Mitra sitting here who watches videos, gets radicalized, decides what to do. And completely unknown individual, pressure cooker makers and chemical providers, they come and deliver things to me, and I put the two things together into a pressure cooker and create a pressure cooker bomb. So, these are very dangerous. They're not sleeper cells, really. They're free radicals in that sense, floating around, as well as free radical organizations floating around, which we need to be very careful about. And the only thing we can base this on is behavioral pattern.
Correct. So ISIS backed, ISIS inspired. Al-Qaeda backed, Al-Qaeda inspired. So let me inspire more people and say plausible deniability. I'm not involved in it. So this is something which you're saying that they've perfected the art. The other aspect is they are very benign. They're very peaceful organization who only come and throw petrol bombs at specific targets, who only break down, vandalize vehicles and force shops to be shut down. But despite 120 leaders arrested, they still have the ability to mobilize Abhishek Banerjee.
Yeah, so Anand, because the experts on your panel have already spoken at length on the operational aspects of the PFI in a very enlightening manner, I thought I would speak a little bit about the historical perspective of this Islamism, the Muslim Brotherhood, Arab nationalism, and all these contacts that they have in the Middle East region. I mean, the story really begins in World War I, where the Caliphate in Turkey carries out this genocide of over 1 million Armenian Christians. So after that, the Turkish genocide state, it takes shape under Mustafa Kemal. And then in the 1920s, this organization, the Muslim Brotherhood, is born in Egypt, which is sort of the organization that, PFI seems to be somewhat at least modeled after. It is basically a pro-Nazi organization, and, the Mufti of Jerusalem, Haji al-Husseini. And then it slowly starts taking over the organs of the state. Of course, after the Second World War, the Nazis, they all find that escaping from Germany, they find shelter inside the Arab world. And there is this Arab nationalism that starts taking shape. I mean, President Nasser of Egypt, he was himself a Holocaust denier. Yeah. Then it was followed in Egypt by Anwar Sadat, who also was a pro-Nazi element who had been arrested by the British. And so this Arab nationalism is slowly eaten up by the rising Islamism, which is pan-Islamism that, not just incorporates the Arabs, it incorporates the entire Islamic world, all around the world. And this is basically what I feel that the PFI is feeding into. And what I would notice is that, and I think others have said this as well, is that when I observe their communications, it is very polished. And in some sense, I could say it's very woke. And it's clear that, rioters on the street, internet trolls, they're not very well educated, but they are all speaking a very, very woke, a very unified kind of language. So somebody is definitely coaching them. And as I would say, I believe in the next few years, the PFI is slowly going to become India's biggest internal security threat because the Naxalites are clearly on a downhill. So it's the PFI that's coming up next.
No, absolutely. We'll try and connect with Rahul Ishwar in just a bit. We seem to have lost him momentarily. But there is another aspect. So story number 12, exclusive number 11, beg your pardon. We'll get into exclusive number 11. And this is defining PFI's anti-India mission. Why we believe, and there is the belief within the intelligence outfit and the government agencies. The agencies believe their agenda is to alter the DNA of Bharat. Their mission is anti-India because this is what they want to do. These are create tension in all communities, even among Muslims, because they believe that only by stirring the pot internally within the community also that they can also rise and cannibalize other outfits, other groups, create a rift between common man and the government. So create this entire thing that socially there is a rift and there is a problem, and try and create this perception and then go ahead and make them believe this perception. Use the Supreme Court Ayodhya verdict to galvanize India sentiment via seminars and rally. So this entire aspect of the courts are also now not with us, not with Muslims. So to try and push that kind of a narrative. Use Gyanvapi issue to try and instigate Muslims. देखो राम मंदिर चला गया, कोर्ट से करवा लिया, अब इसके पीछे आए हैं. Now you have no other option but to stand. अभी हिंदुओं को सबक नहीं सिखाया तो कब सिखाओगे? This is now or never. Otherwise Muslims will be wiped out from India. This is the kind of narrative that they are pushing on ground. Label NRC as anti-Muslim. Again, misinformation. Create fear among Muslims. देखो their register निकाल रहे हैं. तुम्हारी identity निकाल के तुमको यहाँ से निकाल देंगे. This is the kind of narrative that's being pushed. Whip up sentiment against CA, which has got nothing to do with Indian citizens, but to increase enrollment and donations. CA से बचना है, NRC से बचना है, तो हमारे साथ खड़े हो जाओ. हम तुम्हारे लिए लड़ेंगे. This kind of narrative being pushed. Term instant 3 talaq ban as encroachment into personal Muslim laws. हमारे हक छीन रहे हैं, शरीयत में हाथ डाल रहे हैं. This is the kind of language that's being used and tonality that's being used. Term Article 370 abrogation as a bid to hurt Jammu and Kashmir Muslims' rights. Reject national education policy as interfering with the system. Raise funds for Rohingyas for anti-CA and anti-NRC agitations. In fact, our investigation on ground, use GOI logo on PFI website to back Palestine. Hurt India-Israel ties. So this is all the kind of aspect of riding on international issues also. Rizwan Saab, so many narratives which then ring true because various ones have been used, Dr. Syed Rizwan, to create social unrest on ground.
Yeah, thanks. Exactly. This how I was trying to pinpoint it to you and the learned panel members. See, what I feel that government came a little too late. This action was due somewhere in 2015 and 16, what I feel. And at this stage, they are such a multifaceted organization. I don't know how many will agree that that government came late. That it is such a multifaceted organization that they will have many tentacles which shall be absolutely legitimate. And if the government will crack down there, then the courts will come into the picture. And more or less in South India, you must have noticed the conspicuous silence of Asaduddin Owaisi. Because somebody told me about a month back that 5 years down the line, Telangana and Hyderabad, PFI will take over AIMIM. So what I feel that government came late, about 3 to 4 years late. These actions were required earlier. God knows they were riding on PFI or they were ignorant about PFI. This I cannot comment on.
Srivastav ji, where do you stand on this? These kind of narratives being stitched, wasn't the intelligence mechanism wiser? Shouldn't this crackdown have happened earlier? Is it timely or a little too late?
I would like to tell you about the genesis of Indian Mujahideen, which basically came into being in sometime in 2001, 2002. And prior to that, there was a student wing of by the name SIMI.
Islamic
and many
Movement
of
of
the
India.
members from the SIMI, many of these members from the SIMI, they came over to the Indian Mujahideen. And we remember the Delhi Police Special Cell investigated along with other sister agencies, and finally we were able to wipe them out sometime. The last such terrorist attack was in 2013. So what I want to say is that very minuscule percentage of the Muslims were actually involved in this, and they had this mindset. It was through the personal contact, the Bhatkal brothers and other influential members of the Indian Mujahideen, wherever they went, they tried to influence some youth, and they inducted them into the Indian Mujahideen. So, and PFI, which was active earlier in the South India, now it is trying to get its footprint in the Northern India, and three such incidents which I had mentioned. What they are trying to do is that they want the larger number of the Muslim community should come forward, even though I don't know how much they are responding, but the attempt is that wherever there are incidents, wherever they can influence the Muslim members, they influence them and commit riots where even the Muslims would be harmed, and this way then some youths will try get into the terrorist fold. So this is how they are operating and trying to get more support from their community.
So you're saying that the number of people who are actually backing SIMI or IM was not a huge number, but it was enough to cause damage. But now you're saying the PFI, what they are doing is create social unrest, create a sense of alienation, so increase your recruitment and try and spread and use this entire template pan-India. So they started, experimented, used Kerala as their, as a state where they would experiment, use Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, and then try and spread in that region. And now they are present in 23 states. Rizwanji had some, he's been raising his hand. Yes, Dr. Saab.
I would like to add.
Something more. Okay, one second, Dr. Syed Rizwan. Let Mr. Srivastav complete, and then I'll come back to you between the two, and then I'll bring in Abhishek and Abhijit. Ji. Yes, Srivastav ji.
Yes, this anti-CA, the protest demonstrations and thereafter the Northeast riots. In that, what we had noticed that there again they spread some falsehood that once the CA gets into once CA is implemented, many of the Muslims, they would be driven out from India and they will lose citizenship, etc. And such fear was created, and they could, through this, they could garner some support in terms of demonstrations, and also the number of people who committed the riots in the Northeast. It was through spreading of falsehood that they were able to get these things done.
And they were also cannibalizing local groups, Muslim groups, political outfits which had perhaps sway over certain sections of the Muslim society, saying, "Ye tumhare liye kuch nahi karenge, tum hamare saath jud jao, hum tumhare liye ladenge." So this kind of narrative spinning also happened, trying to push this alienation narrative and saying, "I am the savior, I am the only option, come to me." In their documents which have been seized, even in Bihar, in that Fulwari Sharif, there also they said 10% of the Muslim population, if we are able to get it, we'll take control. So those are things which are part of their objective statements. Yes, Dr. Syed Rizwan.
I so much respect wisdom of Mr. Srivastav, but Mr. Srivastav, I am also a lawyer and a Muslim who has been studying Muslim psyche from last more than 2 decades. See, what you are saying, with due respect, I reiterate, this same mistake you made in Kashmir in 1990, when commentators kept on saying, "Oh, a pinch full of Kashmiri people are into this, a pinch full." Had they been pinch full, the jihad would not have continued for more than 35 years, and still it is continuing. Do not make this mistake of declaring that a pinchful of minuscule Muslims are aligned with their ideology. No, you don't know this, I know this better than you. Because I sit, eat and talk to them, maybe rather more than you. If I talk to 15 people, I'm not exaggerating, in last 24 hours, all 15, without exception, without being members of PFI, said government galat kar rahi hai, government target kar rahi hai, PFI is an absolutely peaceful organization. Do not go by what your eyes see. The backdrop, the psyche, the sympathy and empathy which they get from an average Muslim is phenomenal, which you won't be able to anticipate till it is late for the nation and for this country. Thank you.
So you are saying that there is far more sympathy which is not presenting itself, but we need to be wise about it. But if that is the case, then it is unfortunate, because there should be large-scale rejection of such advert. One would largely want to believe that yes, they may have a growing spread, but they still have a stated objective that 10% of Indian Muslims should back us. That means they don't even have that kind of support, which is welcome sign and large. So that's where it is. But even if it is 2% or 3%, 3% of 25 crores is a huge number, SN Srivastavaji, in absolute numbers, and that can create a lot of havoc and mayhem across the country. They were training 15,000 people in Bihar, 30,000 people who they believe have recruited and they have sent across as manpower in the Gulf. So those are sizable numbers, small percentage to a 1.4 billion population or a 25 crore base of Muslims estimated, but significant number. Srivastavaji, and then I'll bring in Abhishek and Abhijit. Thank you for your patience, gentlemen. But yes, Srivastavaji.
I just wanted to make it very clear the result of our investigation when we are investigating the Indian Mujahideen, and it is at that time that we found that the percentage of such people who are radicalized were very small. This was the result of the investigation. Now, what PFI is trying to do is to up the ante, get more and more people done, and bring to the fold. So this is what I had mentioned, and I feel that this point is correct, that they are trying to up the ante and get larger and larger number of people to the side.
Correct. And what they are also somewhere doing is trying to do it soft. Don't get too very aggressive in public. You don't need to be. Look very benign, look very soft, but do it very quietly. But go ahead and push 4 people. You stand behind 4 people, you be the person who is pushing this mob and pushing these people, inciting them, let them go ahead and do it, and you still remain in the shadows, but you continue to remain, you increase your footprint. That seems to be the modus operandi. We've just got more news coming through, and then Abhishek Banerjee, Abhijit Iyer Mitra, it's to you. There is a PFI cadre who's now been deported from Singapore. Our investigations editor Manoj Gupta getting us these details that a PFI cadre has been deported from Singapore. Top sources telling us that Singapore-based Indian national Sahil Hamid has been deported to India. He was involved in mobilizing funds for the PFI since 2016. He was arrested by the NIA at the airport. He gave information about fundraising and other activities of the PFI in Singapore. And he was working as a quality analysis, QA, and quality controller, QC, in Singapore-based firm Dynamac Engineering Services Private Limited. He made several overseas bank transfers from Singapore to the PFI, and because of these multiple transfers, he came into limelight. He came in contact with the PFI in 2009 and then became a regular cadre. 2009 onwards, he's their card. He's involved with them. 2016 onwards, he's been sending regular funds and trying to raise funds for the PFI operating out of Singapore. Abhishek Banerjee.
Yeah, Anand, so I would first of all very much appreciate Mr. Rizwan, because I totally agree with him that the catchment area of sympathy for PFI is very large among the community at large. Now, what I would say is that the PFI has basically hacking into the weaknesses of our system. They have located our weaknesses. So the two basic things, and I'm not saying they are bad things. The first of all is that, like all modern democracies, our legal system is based on individual responsibility. So
Correct.
they have figured that if a whole group of people, if 10,000 people are committing a crime together, each one is doing very, very small parts of it, it's very hard to pin down the blame on any one person and penalize them.
Exactly.
That is one weakness. And the other thing that they have realized is our model of secularism. That is, we are allowing particularly minority communities to live in their own silos. So what do we do when we find ourselves facing something like this? We have to change our own system. So I would suggest that we should look at something more like a French model, where they have certain integration laws, where they said that you cannot have certain mosques or which preach certain things, mosques or religious schools, where they brought these laws where they brought the religious schools under state control and they started controlling what was being preached. We have a certain language media which takes place in our country. It also lives in its own silo that has to be brought under French style integration laws. And now, from the point of view of the NIA, since we are facing a very different kind of war, I would suggest that what we need is something like what the FBI did in the 1970s and the 60s under Edgar Hoover, where, they went after these left-wing terrorist organizations, domestic terror organizations, like the Weather Underground and so forth. So you have to infiltrate them. You have to locate who their sympathizers are, who their financiers are, and you have to sort of take these strands apart one by one, so that they can no longer sort of communicate with each other. So the only way they can carry out these operations at the end of the day, because these are not 1 or 2 person operations, these are thousands of people coming together and sort of cooperating with each other, is if you break their bonds of communication between them. And that is the kind of warfare that the NIA has to start right now, like the FBI did in the 1970s.
So they have perfected a task which an art of subterfuge, which the NIA now has to crack this code. So the hackers are a little ahead as far as this code is concerned in terms of how to work within our systems, subverting our system. Abhijit Iyer Mitra?
Anand, I would take Abhishek's point slightly further. You see, one of the reasons that organizations like this thrive in India, much more so than they do in the West, is the fact that you may have 1 or 2 centers of excellence like the NIA, which can do forensic analysis and catch people. But overall, we're a society that operates on negligence. It's okay. Let's iske paas drive. He can't really drive, but if you give me 5,000 rupees, I'll give you a driver's license, kind of thing. So this kind of day-to-day corruption and negligence that happens is actually something that works in people's favor. So when it comes to terrorism laws, you now need to take the next step, where intent alone is not enough. Negligence should also be a punishable offense, which would then make things a lot tougher. The second is that we need speech laws, right? So, for example, remember, there's a whole set of people going after, genocide of Muslims, Hindutva is fascist, Hindutva wants to kill off every single Muslim and things like that, which is essentially a legal cover, a rhetorical cover for hobbling the government from taking legal measures against radical organizations like the PFI. So even speech like that, and this is a very dangerous path to go down. It has to be negotiated very carefully. The problem is we don't really have the time, because the quantum of this kind of moral equivalence and things like that, including what some alleged fact checkers do, essentially instigating riots, has gone beyond a certain quantum. And what is sad is the Supreme Court actually considers some of this journalism.
Correct.
Right. So a lot of this needs to be criminalized, and there has to be a lot more accountability, and you have to start punishing negligence from now on if you want to have, because the sheer scale of this PFI net shows you what deep danger we're in, what is the kind of deep penetration that's happening. We've got the penetration in the sort of blue-collar classes, so to say. What about the penetration or use of useful idiots in the elite and intellectual sections of society?
But Srivastavji, how do you prove? Is this going to be tough to prove in court? Because the PFI seems to be very, very fast or nimble-footed in changing strategy. Like let's take the hijab case for that matter. Campus Front of India is pushing this. They are the ones backing the petitioner. They argued in the High Court that hijab is an essential religious practice. In the Supreme Court, they have tweaked that argument. They have turned and said that it is very, very important and integral to the culture. So they've tried to make it, just reword it in such a way so that in legal parlance, it measures up. So how do you fight an organization like this? Because they'll all hide behind plausible deniability.
Despite all the difficulties, I have a lot of faith in the NIA. We had worked a number of times with NIA when I was heading the special cell of Delhi Police. So I have complete faith, and I'm very optimistic that they will be able to get sufficient evidence to nail this organization. I'm very confident. It is understandable and it is well accepted that there would be a lot of challenges in doing so, but we will get sufficient evidence.
But where do you think, how is it that we can break the backbone of this entire hydra? Where do you think, what is the learning that the investigation authorities, the government can have so that there is no PFI like which springs up within the next 2 or 3 years? Or is that something which is inevitable? You will have to wait till it happens and then crack it down.
No, we have to be alert. We have to be completely alert and look for such organization. You see, even if the PFI is banned, the people in hiding will try to find some different organization and again get active. So there's a need for being alert and identify such people and take legal action. If they are active, if they are acting, we also need to act. The searches which has taken place, the number of arrests that has taken place, certainly it will it will have a great impact on the way they are progressing. As I said, we need to be alert. By banning this organization, as we know, any member who is the member of the banned organization, the unlawful organization, a legal action can be taken against them. And number two, any funds, any property that this unlawful organization has, that also will be freezed and forfeited. So by taking action, legal action against the members, and at the same time stopping the fundings, we will be able to have some impact on this organization. We need to be alert, and also at the same time, you see, we need to make people aware.
Correct.
I am personally aware of many transactions which have taken place through the banks, and these bank account holder is somebody who is innocuous. I mean, he may be from another community, and that account he has maintained, and some small amount of fund was transferred to that account and finally it was withdrawn. So such awareness has to be brought among all the members, I mean, from whichever community they are, that anybody can misuse such things. We also know that there are a lot of other cyber crimes and different type of things which are happening. So awareness is another thing that has to be really focused.
Awareness has to be done, but the other thing is, in our country we have this habit कि illegal ज़मीन पर इमारत बनने दो लोग आके रहना शुरू करेंगे, उसके बाद आप तोड़ेंगे. We don't stop it from the time when they start constructing. We have to do it there itself. The moment they start, पहला पत्थर रखते ही आपको उसको हटवा के उसको secure करने की ज़रूरत है. That attitude has to come through. This is something which we see in physical and also living. Either ways, living and non-living, however, say इमारत करें या PFI जैसी organizations करें, both places this simile applies. That's where I'm saying I've run out of time, so we've got to end this here, but we'll continue our deep dive. And I thank all our panelists. It's been very engaging in terms of the way forward. Ban, but before ban, what else, so that they don't try and mushroom again? And do we have a watertight case to lock them up for good? That's the big challenge. Burden of proof will be on the prosecution here. We're going to take a very short break. A quick recap of our exclusive angles when we come back. Stay with us.
Party joining us. Aarti Agarwal is author and researcher. Dr. Tara Karta is former director of the National Security Council Secretariat, and Maulana Ali Qadri will be joining us, Islamic scholar. Let me start with Vikram Singh first. They say in India, if the police force in any state wants to stop a riot, then even God cannot create a riot. So tell me what exactly happened today, because what we saw today, sir, was widespread violence. It was in the northern districts, it was in the southern districts, and all of this seemingly to protest the arrest of certain leaders of the PFI. How can anyone justify taking the law into their own hands and indulging in this kind of rank hooliganistic behavior?
Good evening, Zaka. You very rightly articulated that nobody has the right to take law in his own hands. But much as some people would like to believe that everybody has a democratic right to give peaceful protest and rightful resentment, the democratic right to voice their dissent. This is not a rightful dissent. This is violence, and the naked kind of violence. Obviously, the Kerala police were caught on the wrong foot. They did not probably anticipate that this would lead to hurling of petrol bombs to rival camps, and also this level of vandalism and widespread violence and breakdown of law and order machinery. Now, of course, perhaps they are very professional police. They would have taken their reinforcements, got reinforcements from the central government as well. But yes, they should have anticipated and had actionable intelligence to ensure that life is normal. We have disturbing scenes of bus drivers flying government buses, putting on helmets in anticipation of the fact that perhaps they may be attacked and they may be subjected to brick batting. Now, perhaps the police know what anti-riot gear is and what anti-riot drill is. Once the police also, I give you a second corollary to what the police, if the police want, there shall be no wanton destruction of property, and there cannot be anybody taking law in his own hands. Make it very clear. Let this be very clear. Kerala is a very professional police force, and once this has happened, I'm sure there'll be no replication. And those who have been identified in the video and the CCTV cameras must be booked tonight, not tomorrow. Tonight itself, picked up and then sent to jail and given a lesson of a lifetime.
Over 100 people have been rounded up across the state, allegedly belonging to the PFI. But, you know, the thing that I find absolutely astounding is, why are you targeting public transport vehicles? What is the fault of these public transport drivers that they have to wear helmets and drive the buses for fear of being pelted with stones? It's not like they came and arrested the PFI leaders. But be that as it may, let me ask Ghanshyam Tiwari. What is critical here, Ghanshyam Tiwari, is there is an explicit Kerala High Court order in 2019 which has banned flash hartals. In fact, that order goes on to say that if anyone wants to call out a hartal, they have to give 7 days notice. What the PFI has done today is basically cock a snook at that judgment. Surely the PFI is not above the law of this land.
Good evening, Zaka, to you, the viewers, and my fellow co-panelists. The law of the land and the way the government sees the law of the land is visible in the kind of hate architecture that BJP has put in India. Where a PFI becomes the news item, they have the ability to create this destruction of property, take law in their own hands, and the Home Minister is missing. Where is the Home Minister of India? What is he doing? Is he stopping PFI, which is apparently, as per BJP, across the country? No. He is further building the hate architecture in Bihar. The Supreme Court is talking about the role of media that participates in the hate architecture sponsored by BJP and this government. When you have the national government working to build hate architecture, when you have international agencies talking about how the over 55% of anti-Muslim hate tweets on internet came from India, and definitely BJP is a major participant, BJP supporting media is a major participant, then you don't know which is the end where we will start solving the problem. We can discuss the problem, but neither you nor the respective Vikram Singh knows that which is the right end of the problem. I believe the right end of the problem is Home Minister of India. He has to decide whether it is he is participating as Hate Minister of India, or he is participating as a Home Minister of India, whose responsibility is communal harmony is maintained. Organizations that are against communal harmony, whether it is BJP and RSS based organizations, or whether it is PFI, those organizations are checked, and the federal government is not playing against the state government for petty politics to engineer such organizations. The last but not the least, you have Mr. Siddaramaiah, former Chief Minister of Karnataka, going on record and saying that BJP is supporting PFI and SDPI and such organizations to divide society. So if BJP is at the core of the hate architecture in India, and Home Minister is unsure whether it is his Home Minister or hate minister, then we will continue to have discussions, but they will not be meaningful.
Since yesterday, I've been hearing this argument. Many are calling this equivalence. Many are calling this false equivalence, that you can't just go after violence on one side. Yes, the PFI indulged in violence. No one should, in their right mind, condone that. But equally, at the same time, there's violence from the Hindu side as well. Yati Narsingh Anand, for example, is still roaming scot-free. What about hate speech that comes from the Hindu side? How come there isn't action, or at least timely action, that is taken against that?
Destruction, vandalism, anarchy. A day after the biggest crackdown on Popular Front of India, its members
Back on with a quick recap of CNN News 18's mega exclusive on PFI's global footprint. It's a big wake-up call. In the UAE, there are regular visits by PFI leaders from Kerala to Abu Dhabi, Dubai. PFI leadership visits Muslim Brotherhood strongholds, money laundering and Hawala operation hubs, real estate and car rental businesses. Now, Saudi Arabia, the ops are fronted by Indian Social Forum and, of course, the Indian Fraternity Forum, or the IFF. They lure Indian nationals during Hajj. Money for terror ops is being sent to India via Hawala and gold smuggling. Funds pumped via e-wallet in the name of legal aid. In Oman, they work under the Social Forum umbrella with ISF and IFF. Kerala wing of the PFI, NDF propagates radical ideology via Tarbiyah. Big Hawala funding, 44 lakh has been sent to India directly to Rehab India Foundation. Radicalization via multiple fronts like the SF, ISF, WFS and of course the WSK. In Turkey, the base established with the help of Indian students and fundraising happening via students. Then we also have the nation like Qatar, where PFI Front Cultural Forum, popular among Malayali population. There is backing for the ISIS cause in Syria, and funds are collected for PFI SDPI transferred to India via Hawala. There is Kuwait, where Kuwait India Social Forum is very, very active. Rich Kuwaitis are radicalized using videos and funds are collected. This is the nature of the operations. They also have operations in Bahrain, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Maldives, Bangladesh and Mauritius. Comprehensive information that we have shared with you here on CNN News 18. The deep dive investigation continues here on your channel. Winding up the right stand, brass tacks with Zaka next.
Good evening, this is Brass Tacks. I'm Zaka Jacob. There was widespread violence today in the state of Kerala, by and large, by PFI activists, a day after there was large-scale arrest of its leaders. Over 100 of PFI activists were rounded up yesterday in a multi-state operation by the NIA as well as local police. But today, in response to that, from Kannur and Kasargod in the north of Kerala to Thiruvananthapuram in the south, public transport was targeted, schools and colleges were shut, and business establishments and shops were attacked. And this is despite an explicit Kerala High Court order banning hartals and flash strikes. In fact, that order goes on to say whoever calls for the hartal without giving a 7-day advance notice period will have to pay for all the damages caused. Why should anyone resort to violence to make a political point? And why should there be any tolerance for anybody who takes the law into their own hands, no matter what their grievance may be?
Destruction, vandalism, anarchy. A day after the biggest crackdown on Popular Front of India, its members went on a rampage in Kerala and Tamil Nadu. The PFI had called a bandh to protest against the midnight raids and arrest of its key leaders by central agencies. But PFI members used their hartal call as an excuse to go on a vandalism spree. State-owned buses and auto rickshaws were pelted with stones.
Inside this bus, we can see that there are fragments of glass that is there all over. There are big stones that are inside this. So this is a condition in most of the vehicles where buses have been damaged like this.
Tires were burnt and even private vehicles were not spared.
That the hartal supporters, they took away the key and blocked the road. Now the police have gave a direct connection and now they have started this truck. So the technique was to just to block the truck and take away the key.
PFI workers were even caught on camera hurling petrol bombs at the offices of the RSS and the BJP. In some places, PFI workers tried to forcibly shut shops that were open despite their hartal call, but locals gave it back to them. The protest turned violent. The Kerala High Court initiated suo motu cognizance against PFI leaders for calling flash hartal despite it being banned by the court earlier.